Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Scenic Route Astrology. My name is Makayla. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, and today I'm talking about the Mars retrograde period in Gemini. This is about a 7-month long cycle. I think it's super important for us to have a zoomed in lens on what this means for us as individuals and then also as a collective. And so I just wanted to bring some perspective, from my approach to astrology, and hopefully you can think about what I have to say around this transit and then consider it in the Gemini area of your chart. I also really want you to consider the Aries, it's Mercury retrograde, forgive me, the Aries section of your chart as well, because Mars is ruled by Aries. So if you synthesize the Gemini part of your chart where Mars will be retrograde from, well, going retrograde 8 degrees to 25, back to 8, and then back to 25, that will be kicking up that area. It'll also be affecting the Aries section of your chart since Mars is the ruler of Aries. That will give you some deeper layers and understanding into what this cycle means for you. And then I also want you to consider Jupiter, which is going to be in Aries as well. Um, and I'll get into that a little bit later into the lecture and why I think Jupiter is a major backbone to this transit. So I waited a little bit. I shouldn't have waited during Mercury retrograde because I knew I would stumble on my words, but it's all right. Just bear with me. I waited a little bit because I was really thinking about what this cycle is going to mean for us. And I wanted to take a couple of weeks as well to see what themes were showing up and what I was seeing happening in my friends and my clients' lives and my personal lives. And it's been a lot, as Gemini fashion would be. It's very quick, fast-moving energy and experiences that I'm seeing. And I had some feeling that there would be some type of arguments going on and quick tongues like just setting off and people reacting quickly. And I had a feeling that there would be a lot of instances involving vehicles and traveling and transportation more on, your neighborhood type of level or from state to state. And I also thought that there would be some instances of violence that I have been seeing pop up in the news. And, there are some really positive ways that we can use this Martian energy to really create some positive change in our life. And right before Mars entered this on August 20th, I actually watched one of my favorite movies. It came back in and popped up again, and I was like, oh, I should watch this. Um, it's called The Men Who Stare at Goats, and it has George Clooney and a couple other really awesome actors in this. And I actually want to assign this, like if you're watching this movie, this video right now, I want to assign you to watch this movie. And understand and think about what I'm bringing forth, because the underlying message of this movie is so powerful to me, and I absolutely think that it is so in alignment with what Mars and Gemini should resemble, if it's operating on its highest vibration. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what Mars really covers in the chart and what it means as a planet and what it can signify in some ways. And then we'll get into the Gemini archetype, and I'll synthesize what it is about this movie throughout that I think is showing up and that we can learn from. The movie is based on a true story. Not all of the events, because I did some research on it, not all of the events in the movie are real, but the whole entire movie itself is based on reality. And if you watch the movie, you can actually go on YouTube and you can further dig into some documentaries and some interviews that have been done around the men who actually took part in this whole movement that had to do with the United States Army back in the 70s and the 80s. Really cool. So, and I am a United States Army veteran, if you guys didn't know. So, to me, this was really important because I actually have been in the military, have been through military training, and I do know what it is like to be trained to fight, okay, and to use my Martian energy. It makes sense. I'm in Aries in the sixth house. Many people who have, this Martian energy within their chart become in the line of service in some way, whether they're a firefighter or a police officer or in the military, or maybe they learn jujitsu or they become a martial arts teacher of some sort, okay? Just to give you some backdrop, which actually just helps us dive into what Mars is. So, Mars is the planet that creates change in our life and helps us activate change in our life. It is actually the leading edge of change, okay? It's a sharp planet because it does involve moving things, like cutting things, taking action towards things, fighting for something, right? Um, it is a planet that resembles like physical movement in a sense. And so no matter what archetype it's in, natally in your chart or by transit, it does have this undertone of using its actual physical energy for something. And this can be accumulated with quite momentum. So if we're thinking about it in Gemini, we can get very stimulated by our intellectual thoughts, okay? We can get very fired up by words or by information pouring in. And information with Gemini very much can come from social media. It can come from pictures. It can come from your phone, like bringing up an old memory, right? For instance, and then your Mars energy gets triggered for some reason. It can be an email that comes in. It can be actual mail that comes in, right? Um, where intellectual things or gossip, gossip is huge with Gemini. Sorry, Geminis, but it's true. Um, we can hear something right now during this transit that really triggers us instinctually on an inner level, and we're like, oh, I didn't know that. Now you all of a sudden get fired up over it, okay? And if we think alchemically as well as the mixture of this, if Mars is naturally ruled by Aries and it's naturally comfortable in a fire sign, and then it takes over the Gemini archetype by a transit, then the air of Gemini is feeding the fire, right? And so it makes the fire bigger. You don't put out a fire with air, you make the fire stronger with air, right? So that's kind of what can go on for this next 7 months is, us as people and individuals experiencing this transit, we can get fed a lot of information that starts to really piss us off. Um, for lack of better terms. And I'm just being real. Like, I just want us to be real about what's going on, because if we look at things from a collective level, okay, the news is flooding us with all this information right now, around election time coming up. And, the Queen just had her death, for instance, around the Pisces full moon. And now what is Britain going to do? Like, what's going to happen with their monarchy now, and where are they moving forward? And we have the farmers in Canada who are very fired up and they have rights to be, right? And all this information and all this news like comes in and comes in and come in, and people don't feel like it's fair, or they feel like it's controversial, or they have opinions that they want to share. And very much, just like any kind of intellectual stimulation, not everybody is going to see eye to eye. So what can happen too is people are sharing their opinions and their ideas and gathering information, but they can get ticked off if they're not aligning with other people, okay? So the point during this transit, I really think, is to just gather information in. And because we have all these planets in retrograde as well, it's just about gathering opinions and ideas. You don't have to take them on as they are your truth, right? That's where I'm pulling this Jupiter and Aries, um, because Jupiter is around our truths that we live by and the laws that we live by and our beliefs, right? So we don't have to take every opinion and make it our own, because Jupiter and Aries, especially retrograde, really wants you to to discover your own beliefs. And it's really time now to individuate into yourself and, okay, I can see your point of view and I understand and I'm collecting the information and the opinions that you have, but I'm going to think about it and see if I want to adopt that on my own. And this is very much a time to not only do that in the present moment, but to also reflect back on, the opinions and the ideas that were given to you when you were growing up. And be careful around the beginning of this transit. So the beginning up until, I have the dates here, August 20th to October 30th. Mars will be going from 8 degrees of Gemini to 25, and you probably will be gathering a lot of information coming in. But then on October 30th, it will station retrograde and will go back to 8 degrees of Gemini. And when Mars is retrograde, it's really an internalization process. Okay. It's really a time to actually not use that Martian energy so much to go forward. You might even feel like you want to enact some desires or you want to make some changes, but there's blockages, or maybe you feel like you don't have enough information, or you don't, you don't have the resources that you need to move forward yet in that direction. Okay, the retrograde time frame, right, from that October 30th to January 12th, 2023, that's actually a time to start questioning things, to start questioning your inner desire to make change. Okay, and you'll have choices because Gemini is, duplicity and it's multiplicity, and you'll have two roads to take and you'll have two options in front of you, right? In so many facets of your life. But again, it matters also, what section of this is falling into your chart. So that's why just this is general horoscope, but if you can pull up your chart, you'll understand and you'll be able to see exactly kind of what situations or scenarios will be presented to you, okay? But it's also a time to discover who you are through getting curious with yourself, okay? So like while Mars is going forward, yeah, go out and have conversations and be social and gather opinions and have healthy debates and have healthy discussions. But when it goes retrograde, now take the time to actually like reflect about who you are and know which opinions you're internalizing and taking as your own and which are not. Okay. And this very much has to do deeply, deeply, deeply with the work of Carl Jung, where he talks about the not self. And this is such an important realization for me, in combination with the movie that I want you to watch, because, I've been doing these counseling skills for astrology courses, and the not self is a part of our childhood that we needed validation for something at one point, and it doesn't matter if you had a great home bringing and like a great family, and or you're a great parent. If you're thinking about your children right now and you're like, oh, okay, how does this apply to my kid? You can have the best childhood and the best loving and giving parents, or you could have trauma and you could have a really difficult childhood, right? There's a time when the child experiences a moment where they are not able to be their own independent true self and be their own nature, and they're kind of rejected in some sense, okay? And what happens from that is the child forms a type of defensive mechanism because they need the protection from the hurt that's happening within. But we're children, we can't really understand what's happening. And this actually can happen in small scenarios and circumstances throughout our childhood, throughout our young teens, right? Even our young adult years, even as literally adults, if it's not confronted, it's a part of the shadow side, a part of the shadow archetype of us, that there's a portion of us that is the not self that's operating on a defense and operating on a survival mechanism even. It depends on, the many layers of what the individual life can go through. And so this is a time to actually use Martian energy to uncover the layers of the survival techniques that you've adopted through different scenarios in your life, and uncover the layers of the survival techniques that society has enforced within you, or certain organizations has enforced within you. And to bring this into a different perspective, I can bring this back to my military training, where, you are trained to kill if you need to, or and go to war and fight, okay? And so psychologically, this becomes some type of training mechanism that alters the reality of the soldier, that they have to go to war and fight and kill the other person on the enemy, right, on the other side. And it never really resonated with me. I was always like a very like peaceful person. Like, yeah, I could kick ass if I needed to, but like it just doesn't resonate with me, which is why I'm in astrology now and I left the military, right? But think about the war in Ukraine right now, and think about everything that's happening in Europe, and kind of like the motion that we're heading to. And think about our military right now having been forced vaccines on soldiers, and so many soldiers had to leave the military because they didn't want to take a vaccine. And we're supposed to be living in a country of choice, right? Of freedom, right? So think about that dynamic, and now you put a soldier into war, and you're forcing them to go into war because we said so, right? You don't have a choice. That's what you're supposed to do if you're in the military. You're supposed to fight and you're supposed to kill. No, you're supposed to defend. But what if we rethought the way that we defend ourselves? And what if we rethought the way that we fight, right? Because Mars is a fighting planet, but now it's in Gemini, so it's time to think about things. It's time to think of solutions, right? And this is so important to me because on an individual layer that we're always fighting for something in our life, right? We're fighting for the job, we're fighting to make more money, we're fighting to succeed, we're fighting to get into better shape, right? We're passionate about something because Mars also rules our passion and our drive. Right? And our drive to go after something, right? It's the heat within our root and sacral chakra that starts burning up and makes us just excited to go for something, right? But it also is the energy that stimulates us when we feel like we are suppressed. And that's what brings up fighting energy, right? That's what brings up aggression, which is the lower expression of Mars. When we're suppressing our energy, we get pissed off and we bite back and we snap back, right? In Gemini, it's a time where people could easily be stimulated, especially if they're not aware or conscious, right? But if you're watching this video and you're learning astrology, you're much more in awareness and consciousness than other people who are just had not opened up yet. And there's no fault in that. But you becoming now an educator for these other people to consider what I'm talking about and to consider the dynamics of what it means to have passion and to aggression, and what it means to have drive and fighting energy for something in our life, right? And on literally the personal level, which always affects us more and more on this collective level. Now, it's your responsibility to communicate these ideas and to give somebody a different opinion or a different perspective so that when Mars goes retrograde, then maybe they can consider if they have to adopt something new, or if they have to let go of an opinion or idea that they've adopted that revolves around survival and drive and passion, right? And the go-getting energy. You see what I mean? So it's and you can learn fast with Mars and Gemini because it is quick energy. Like Hermes rules Gemini, and he can be the trickster for sure, and we love his archetype. But he was the archetype in mythology that could go to the land of the gods and then go to the underworld and just share all this information and create bridges in some sense, and negotiate trades and so forth. So we have Mars here in this archetype that, can go between the worlds and fill in the gaps right? Where there's information lacking. And that's exactly what I think that this transit is going to bring up for us on personal levels and collective levels. So, also when Mars goes retrograde from the October, I keep forgetting, October 30th to January 12th, 2023, it will bring up where you're dissatisfied in that section of your chart. And that just gives you an option again, because you will have two choices to review what is making you dissatisfied, because a retrograde period means that, or a retrograde planet means that there's a liberation of some sort. And this applies to you if you have a natal retrograde planet or it's by transit, but there's a need for you to do something in your own individual way. All right, on a soul level, on a deep soul level, you've come into this lifetime. If it's natal, you've come into this lifetime to take back your power of this planet and kind of deconstruct it in some way and figure out where it's not working and individualize yourself, okay? And then when we get it by a transit, well, there's no coincidence that you're alive right now and that you're supposed to experience the exact transits that are going on in the sky in relation to your natal planets to create your own evolutionary change, okay? And that's why we can apply the transits as a general for everybody, because yes, we're all experiencing the same energy, but if you think about it, we're all connected on this great big grand fucking scale. So we're all connected. We're all supposed to be going through the same type of energy, but in an individual way. And then we can bring our purpose out into the world and we can make the pieces of the world connected more and more, which is actually great. Just roll into what I wanted to share. I'm going to share my screen because I want to show you guys the Wikipedia that I pulled up for what I'm talking about. Okay. So here's the transits. By the way, if you are interested in your own astrology software, lunaastrology.com, which I will try to bring up the lunaastrology.com. You can get it for 10% off. You'll hit start, not log in, but you'll hit start now. It's $5 monthly or $36 yearly. And you can get 10% off with my affiliate code. And you can hit, for me, I don't have Instagram anymore. You guys know that, but you can hit my YouTube channel or my website and you'll type in my name, Makayla with Makayla. The link will be down below as well. And you'll get my affiliate discount. Here he is, right? So you'll hit in. That's what you'll do. You'll hit apply and it should take you to your discount. I just want to see if this is working properly. It might not because I'm logged in, but okay, while that's loading. So the movie I'm talking about, The Men Who Stare at Goats, right? Awesome movie, super great comedy, but also based on a true story. This movie was created because Lieutenant Colonel Jim Channon was a US soldier who had served in Vietnam, okay? And when he landed in Vietnam, he realized that the soldiers there did not want to be fighting. Like when it came time for real combat, he was like looking around at his whole battalion and realized nobody wants to be shooting anybody, nobody wants to be killing anybody. Like, why are we fighting this way, right? Why are we fighting this way? Let's ask ourselves that. Who told us that we need to fight with guns and weapons and hitting each other and shooting each other and gouging each other, right? Like, who told us that, right? Sick and hurt people, honestly. And if you're going to ask for my opinion, which is my channel, so I can put it on, but hurt people, right? So they need healing and they need compassion because that is the only way to undo the knots and the tangles of trauma inside the heart. And that's why we use astrology and that's why we use psychology. That's why we use evolutionary techniques and soul work and spirituality, right? So Jim understood this. Like he understood this to some type of degree and some type of level. So he basically came to his higher up, whoever that was, and talked about how he wanted to discover some type of um, counterintelligence to win wars, essentially, and fight in combat, right? So the military sent him off for like 7 years to do all this research, and he basically lived the hippie lifestyle as the 70s were going on, and the movie goes through it and explains it. And he basically learned all these heart-opening techniques, and what he was actually learning was channeling work, right? Channeling your psychic abilities, learning about what love means, learning about the chakras, uncovering the truth of the planet, plant medicine, right? He got into all of these different ethics, right? And he also was a very smart man. This guy was a lieutenant colonel. You have to be you have to be pretty intelligent, and you have to put in a lot of work to get to that type of chain of command in the military. It doesn't come easily, okay? And so he actually ends up creating this manual, 125-page manual, right? Which I'll pull up, and I do encourage you to actually go in and read this manual yourself. It's amazing, and I can't believe that this hasn't stayed. Um, I think it's going to come back because I'm bringing it back. So he came back to the military, and they're on board, and they decide to conduct this first Earth Battalion, this segment out of the military, and it was like maybe 20 or 30 soldiers that they picked who were also officers, but highly selected officers because they also had some type of right side brain talent, music, art, dance, whatever it was, right? They had to have some type of opening within themselves that was very creative and art related. And so he takes these men under this training, and he teaches them how to remote view and how to channel. And for those of you who don't know much about my education, I have been working with Tom Jacobs for the last year and a half, where I have learned to channel and remote view and become a psychic medium. And so it's kind of something that everyone can do this. Like, this is something that absolutely every single human being on the planet can tap into if you are not tapped into your gifts already. But it does take deep emotional work, working through the chakras, and basically a lot of just looking at the self and uncovering the shadow archetype of yourself and reclaiming responsibility in areas of your life, and understanding how the universe works, and understanding soul on a different level, okay? We don't even use astrology in those courses, right? It is all basically spirituality training, emotions, uncovering your emotions, understanding your emotions, and processing and really tapping in out of that left side of the brain, out of the mind so much, and learning more about how to connect with the body, and how your physical realm is this vessel for your soul to work its magic through. And it's incredible. And this is what this guy, this lieutenant colonel, did. And I just so deeply resonate because he used the terms of warrior monk and spiritual warrior and conflict resolution, and just using our skills to create humanity in a different way. Okay, it was very unconventional, it was very ahead of the time, and he saw things from a higher perspective and a different perspective that the United States military could actually move towards. Okay. And if some great organization as big as the United States military is can adopt something like this, so can all of us humans. Okay, I actually think this type of warrior training would be beneficial to every single person on the planet because it teaches you how to be a love warrior, an actual love warrior. I mean, this is meaningful to me. And this is definitely Mars and Gemini to me right now because, again, it's about time that we collect different ideas of how we want to fight, okay? How we want to take initiative in our life, and the assertion how we want to defend ourselves, okay? Because Mars is defending, but it can be used for a positive way. It doesn't have to be uh defensive in a negative way, like I'm gonna throw spears at you if you cross my front yard, okay? And Mars also is about being the first to do something and like being on the leading edge of doing something, right? Because it has to do with the Aries archetype. So sometimes we have to show up and be a leader, and that means being different, and that means being brave enough and courageous enough, Mars qualities, to be different, to do it differently, to say no if we want to create that change and that peace that we want in our life, right? I mean, nobody wants to live in this state of fear all the time, in this state of anger and frustration and confusion, right? So he writes in the beginning, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I will show you, like, there's plenty of you know, dialogue, there's plenty of words, there's plenty of pictures that they uncover. And he talks about the mission, for instance, the force of heart, the force of will, the force of arms, the force of spirit, the eco pioneers, urban pioneers, space pioneers. We didn't talk about this in boot camp. Okay, I'm just telling you right now. This was not my Aries training, okay? And we can apply this to our literal personal lives, okay? Like this manual would change your life. This manual would help you tap into your psychic abilities and your psychic gifts where you would be a force to be unreckoned with. You would be a Buddha. You'd be a freaking warrior monk, right? In your personal life. These are life skills that spirituality teaches, that all spiritual teachers want you to have, right? They don't want you to um, cause violence, right? They want you to use your love and your heart shot all the chakras. They want you to use your mind and your love will, right? To actually create the change, okay? Um, and he goes down. I mean, you can see like this is the new age synthesis for a samurai. Love it. Love it. Come on. Seek your own personal path to God. Actively improve your physical condition. Master mental self-control for combat. Understand others, right? Reinforce team interdependence. Actively serve people and planet. Indulge in happiness and humor. I mean, it's just amazing. Spiritual tools, the conscious corpse, right? They had an earth prayer. Um, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing what this guy did in the military. And I really didn't, the first couple times I watched the movie, I got really excited and I was not really contemplating this onto the level that I am now. Okay, but he does say in here, Earthkind has grown from pact to village. And this is what's happening right now because we're moving in, Pluto is moving into the age of Aquarius beginning next year, right? And uh, as the planet recesses from the Pisces constellation, we're moving into the Aquarius constellation, okay? So this is going to resonate with actually where we're going as humanity. And this is what I'm talking about. This is the Mars and Gemini energy, okay? Earthkind has grown from pack to village, and then from village to tribe, and then from tribe to territory, and then from territory to nation. It's time to go from nation to planet. The 1st Earth Battalion hereby declares its primary allegiance to the planet, right? And we're all living and breathing here together, right? We're not separate. And I always say I'm a citizen of the world because we're not separated by anything. Like you have to understand, we have to understand as individuals that, if China wants to pollute the hell out of, our planet, then it's gonna affect us, right? If we want to use nuclear weapons or something, right? It's gonna affect us, right? On a small scale too, no matter what we're doing, like it affects our neighborhoods, it affects the people around us, which then just creates a trickle effect, all right? So it's time we communicate these ideas about what it means to work together and what it means to fight with our brothers and sisters to defend our planet. Okay, it's not defending each other, which you might see show up during this time is that people just want to fight with one another. but it's actually time to join forces and to join arms together and use the Gemini quality like that. When we look at the mythology of Gemini, Castor and Pollux were inseparable. They were inseparable brothers. They did everything together. They even got wives together. They went on to wars together. Okay. And, one of them dies. And I think it's Castor who dies. And the other twin is devastated. He's devastated, so he goes to Zeus to rescue his twin, to say, "Is there any way that you can make me immortal so I can also die with my twin because I don't want to live the rest of my life without my twin?" Right? And that's what's going to happen is that we don't have to sacrifice one of our twins or one of our brothers and sisters or one of our friends or anything like that. We can figure out ways to join forces and fight for a higher cause that is way beyond us, right? And so it's time to use language, symbolism, photos, right? Things that represent Gemini, social media, if you've still got it, your YouTube channel, right? It's time to ignite these conversations and bring about the many different voices that Gemini will bring up for an activation for change, right? On a new level. I'm really excited about this because I think that if we get more people to look at what anger and aggression and suppression really means, then we can literally transmute that and change that from within ourselves and on a collective scale so that we can come to a mutual understanding and a higher truth, okay? And it really always does start with the individual. So, I'm not asking everybody to take on the world with me, all right? But to take on this very important time that the astrology is giving us and to look at yourself and ask yourself, what am I a warrior for? Right? You can intellectually process this. What am I fighting for? It's time to think about it. Because when Mars moves into Cancer next in March of 2023, then it's going to be time to defend your home and defend what makes you feel safe and secure. So now you've got the 7-month period to collect information, to go within, to think about it, and then to start making choices to go forward. And then you're going to be presented very much so with defending the home, defending what gives you safety and security, what's making you feel emotionally secure, physically secure. Those dynamics will definitely show up beginning in March 2023. But we don't have to think about that now, okay? That's too far ahead to look at that on a deeper level, okay? But just to, just to create space, and understand too that during this retrograde cycle, you might have to make adjustments. You might have to go in different directions, right? You might be driving on a very windy road and taking in the scenery, right? But as you're taking in the scenery and as you're being vigilant and being sharp-minded and taking in all that information and what you're seeing all around you, okay? Store it in the back of that trunk, okay? You're on the edge of change in a very, very big part of your life. So it takes time, right? That's why you have the 7 months to process it as well. It takes time, okay? Learn to communicate. Learn to communicate in a very diplomatic way. You don't have to use your tongue so sharply. You don't have to be so quick if you get fired up, okay? Stay away from the gossip, right? If it's gossip, it's coming from a negative place, okay? Try to have conversations and communication that become a catalyst for change in a very positive direction, okay? Or at least stimulate some sort of thinking process around that, okay? Um, it's a very exciting time, and I think that it's something to look forward to. Yes, will it be challenging? Yeah, absolutely. I do think so. On a mundane level, just because I want to say this, like on a very mundane level, um, be careful when driving because Gemini does rule, over cars and short trips and things like that. We can very much get into accidents, and that's what I've been seeing a lot happening is people and getting in, car accidents and stuff. And I don't want to scare you. It's just like if we're gonna do like a little bit of the predictive and a little bit of the forecasting of like what could happen, yeah, if you're not like looking at this You know, if you're acting too quick or you're frustrated and you get in the car and you fucking speed off, right? Yeah, you're probably gonna hit something because the universe is gonna show you a lesson. Okay. So be careful driving, be careful using your words, um, be careful for theft, right? Because Gemini is that mercurial, thefty, you know, he Hermes tricks his brother and steals all of his cattle, right? And then Mars is like the desire for something, okay? So, you know, we could have more breaking and enterings, we could, which I have in my neighborhood, ironically. You know, you could have more people trying to steal things. So just lock up your things or keep an eye on your purse, right? Or keep an eye on your backpack or wear your backpack in front of you, right? If you're traveling and you know you're going to a place with pickpocketers, like just be smart, right? Be vigilant, be aware, be sharp, right, of your surroundings. Because also Gemini does rule, you know, our immediate surroundings and like understanding what the environment looks like. Okay, so it's a time to like open up your eyes and be very acute and very aware in this very sharp mentality. Okay. Um, and then, you know, and if you're working with the energy like that, you know, you're gonna be fine. You're going to initiate some choices in your life and some choices will be presented and then you'll be able to make some very conscious and life affirming and empowering decisions moving forward, as we're evolving, as we're growing. So if you haven't yet already, please give me a like and subscribe to this video. Please drop me a comment if you liked anything or you wanted to tell me how this Mars and Gemini in retrograde is showing up for you. And I'd love to hear from you. And as always, if you want to book a reading with me, you can find me at scenicroutastrology.com. The link will be down below. The link will be for the affiliate for Luna Astrology. That will be down below. And take care, everybody. I'll be back again soon. We've got the new moon coming up, and I'm excited for it. Okay? Have a great day.